Hi friends, welcome or welcome back to my channel. My name is Bethany, and on this channel we talk about the false beliefs taught to women inside of the church, and we also shine a light on problematic Christian influencers. So if any of that resonates with you, go ahead and like this video, share it with a friend, and always be sure to subscribe and come hang out with me on my social medias, which you can find in the description box below. And if you would like to financially support me, you can by becoming a patron, and you will receive videos 12 to 24 hours early and receive exclusive content. If you've been here for a while, you'll notice that this is not my camper. This is not my office. This is actually my brother's basement. So because of James being in the military right now, in previous videos, I've explained this. I moved back to Missouri, and my brother offered me to live in his basement instead of paying rent somewhere. So obviously I jumped on that. So I'm trying to figure out a setup, which I know it's just going to be a temporary setup, so I'm not like overthinking it. I'm just trying to make it work for right now. So I did have a suggestion in the comments of my last video to wear a mic or to use a mic, but I do use a mic, but it's just out of the shop. So what I did is just kind of pushed it a little more forward towards me, and this room is a bit echoey, so I hope y'all aren't like hearing the echo. You're just hearing me, I'm hoping. But if not, I do apologize. I'm trying to make this work. So if that's the case, I'll just try to figure out. But in the meantime, I'm going to try to put the mic closer to my mouth so y'all can hear me a little better. So if it's in the shot, it is what it is. Just trying to figure it out. So in saying all of that, today we're actually talking about Bethany Beal's husband, Dave, because if you are not in on Exfundie, any content, Paul and Morgan, I'm not going to dive into all of this because that'll be like a video all in itself, but Paul and Morgan, they are doing a new segment on their YouTube channel that's called 24 Hours With, and they choose different Christian influencers to spend 24 hours with them to kind of see how they do life, like the ins and outs of that. So it could be a good thing. In this case, it kind of exposed Bethany Beal from Girldefined, Kristen and Bethany, exposed her husband to deconstruction. I know on the Exfundie community on Reddit, they've talked about Dave deconstructing for a while now, and they made a video about him deconstructing, and I think it is very, very interesting. I have already watched this because I didn't know if I wanted to do a video on it or not, but obviously it's deconstructing, so that was a stupid thought of mine. And then I had a few people ask me if I was going to cover it, and here we are. So their video is an hour long, which means this video with commentary is going to be more than an hour. So just buckle up because it's going to be a longer video, but I hope it is very helpful to you. When I watched this, it was pretty validating for me because Bethany and Kristen, I apologize in advance if I call her Brittany. I mix those two names up all the time, which has happened in my life for literally ever. I've always been called Brittany Langford, and it's Bethany Langland. It's so anyway, any hoodles. So Bethany and Kristen have talked about deconstructing a whole lot, like in Girldefined, and have spoken poorly about it and have really talked about how it's abandoning the Christian faith, and if you deconstruct then you're gonna be an atheist, things like that. So they have talked about it in extent, but now Bethany is hand in hand walking with Dave, her husband, through his deconstruction. And I think it's allowing her eyes to be open to, hey, this is a real thing. It's not just because people were hurt in the church or people were, they've abandoned God or, they didn't have enough faith or whatever. It has nothing to do with that. So I really think this is opening up her eyes, and this is the only video of Bethany that I've seen that has been, in my opinion, and a lot of other people's opinions, been quite genuine and like her true self. Because if you've watched the Girldefined videos, she turns it on real fast, or even her reels. It's like, oh my God, dude, okay, like, we know what you're trying to do for social media. It's not really you. You're just trying to put on a face. But here, I really think this is like genuine Bethany. So here we go. We're going to get into Dave's deconstruction video.
All right, let's blow the lid off this month.
Babe!
I got you on camera smiling in a cute and sexy way when I cursed.
Okay, let's do this.
Come on. It's third time's a charm.
Now, in the 24 hours with that Paul and Morgan did, Dave came out to say that he does cuss. So he was cussing I don't want to say like all throughout, like he was a, sailor mouth, but he would cuss in front of Paul and Morgan. And it was so funny because obviously they would like bleep it, but he would say like, no, I cuss in front of Bethany. And so as soon as they start the video, he cusses on camera. It's kind of funny, but you'd think over all the Girldefined videos that Bethany would be so offended and like, no, like, don't say that. I can't believe you just said that. But she's very playful, and it's a weird slash, I don't know, like a weird side of Bethany to see. But at the end of the day, I really think this is genuinely her, and whatever. Okay, let's just keep going.
We've already restarted a couple times because we hate ourselves.
We were the stiffest grandmas you've ever seen in your life.
Anyway, I'm not going to act out the grandma, but
we're like not stiff people, but we've tried to film this like 3 times, and we're not ourselves at all. We're just like this. We're like, and then Paul and Morgan came, and how was yours?
I'm locked 13 layers in my mind castle.
Yes.
I'm sorry, I have no space in here.
Okay, that's because
Are we filming?
We don't ever film together. We need to film more.
We're so bad at this, but we'll get better.
Okay, this was when we went out on our very first date ever. Well, my dream, I told you this, and this might be like really forward. On our very first date ever, I told you about like how I thought we were like really special and unique because we were really good friends at that point, and how I thought we could have like a YouTube channel or do something like that. And we've dabbled a little bit.
Tried along the way a little bit.
But it's still my dream. Like, that's my dream, to do like YouTube or social media with you. So anytime we get to, even if we don't do it that often, so we have to kind of get back. This is so fun for me.
We have to get our YouTube legs back.
You just have so much to offer the world, and I love how we are together, and I feel like this side of me is so much more of like my real self, like the 24 hours with, and because I'm not teaching like so much of what people see of me on the Girldefined channel, and it might be just like change it, but it's like
so don't do it.
It's like a different vibe. It's like teaching. It's like I'm a mentor, I'm a big sister. It's a different vibe, but this is really fun because it's just like whenever we are doing stuff, it's more like sharing our life, and I love it. So
all right, with that, let's get into our experience with, what did you say?
It's like, let him know. Convince him.
Oh, you want them to convince me? Let's get into this. 24 hours with Paul and Morgan. They were here for the weekend, and we took a heck ton of footage. They took a heck ton of footage.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
A ton.
Okay, shout out to Paul and Morgan. They were awesome, and they did such a good job facilitating our conversations and running around with the camera and being very non-invasive about it, and they were very respectful to all of the random stipulations about don't film our kids and
don't film our neighborhood, don't film our privacy.
So we wanted to kind of keep some of that and keep it more focused on conversations and things like that. But it wasn't originally gonna, like, I wasn't going to be in it nearly that much originally. Do you want to say what it was going to be? I don't want to.
Oh, this is quick. Crack. Okay.
It's not my video.
It was supposed to be a Girldefined. It was supposed to be like Kristen and Bethany, 24 hours with Girldefined. long story short, we couldn't make the schedules work, like even literally over the months, because Kristen is an extremely busy person and she homeschools her 2 boys full time. They're just extremely busy. We literally could not make the 3 of our schedules work together. And so it ended up being like, hey, we'll come stay with Bethany and we'll film your life. And then maybe we'll be able to see Kristen a little bit, which they were only really able to see her for that little bit when we were doing the podcast stuff. So it just kind of like morphed. It really wasn't supposed to be a video about like Bethany with Girldefined and then Dave, but it kind of became a video truly about me and then my life with you. So that was not part of the plan.
Yeah, and I kind of saw it, the wheels turning in Paul's head, as we're starting to have conversations here, at our house and about some of our differences. And he's like, hey, Morgan, I think this might be a good direction, And
it was like evolving as they were here.
They were great. Paul and Morgan were both a real joy to have here. And they were up for just about anything. They had hardly gotten here in our house, and I was like, all right, cold plunge? You up for the cold plunge?
Okay, if anyone wants a good time,
they were up for it.
Come to our house. Yeah. Dave, he'll be like busy working. He'll be like, I've got so much to do, which you were saying. He was literally like, I've got all these big projects. I'm so busy with work. And like the moment Paul and Morgan come, and it doesn't matter, anyone that we're like having over for anything, it's like the moment they walk in the door, you're like, Mr. Hostess with the mostest. Like, anyone need drinks, candy? Like, let's go cold plunge. Like,
you going to that thing? We're going to that.
He's the best.
It was great. It was really cool. Driving around and just having these conversations with them, and they were great question askers. And
well, it started with you. I picked them up at the airport. We weren't filming at all. We come here, and they knew like I had to leave right away to go film with Kristen. Like we have very limited recording spots because we're both moms, and it's super busy. Like I mentioned her schedule, so we literally Kristen and I record like once a month together, and it just happened to be that day. So I was like, I have to go, and then Paul and Morgan were going to come for the last hour, and then they'd come home with me and we'd start filming. So Dave was kind of like, they weren't planning on hanging out with you because you were so busy. But as soon as they walked in the door, they were like, hey. And so it ended up being like this.
It's time for a break.
It was this whole afternoon, like hours with you that was completely like unplanned. So that was kind of cool.
I feel like I was.
If you haven't seen the 24 hours with that Paul and Morgan did upload, I'd encourage you to go watch it. It's pretty interesting, just because you get to, like Bethany was saying, that was their dynamic, their relationship. So I would encourage you to also, if not, then to watch that video before this one. But if not, it doesn't actually matter, but just to give a little more context. But I would encourage you to watch it. It is very interesting because they do speak about it kind of like surface level talks about deconstruction without talking about deconstruction, and that's why they're doing this video. But Bethany really talks about the hate that she gets for her mini social media, or her mini Instagrams, and especially the one that she talks more about sex on from a Christian woman standpoint. She gets a lot of hate for that, and that's kind of what they were talking about there. But in the 24 hours they just hung out with Bethany and Dave took Paul to the cold plunge, and they took him around to a few other places. But with that segment, with that video, they just talk about the different beliefs that they have, like what their convictions are, and they just talk about Christianity and just see how they differ in their beliefs. And that's how this video came about, because of the many deep conversations that they were having. God, there's something in my freaking eye.
Already planning to go to the cold plunge, though. I don't think I was that busy because I was mowing the lawn.
I was mowing the lawn. You kept emphasizing to me like, I'm really busy with work.
Well, before they got here, because I didn't want it to be like a big thing where we had... Anyway, but it turned into a big thing, and in a good way. And it was a lot of fun and challenging, and brought up a lot of things for us in our relationship. And if you watch the video, which if you haven't seen the video, go watch the video.
Yeah, watch it before this.
If you're interested, if you're not interested in random people on the internet, then do not watch this video. But if you are, then watch it, and it should be fairly clear that there's some differences that we have and things that came up, and it was a lot of it was some really good really good conversations actually, I think, really benefited our marriage in a lot of ways.
In the long run.
She's like, I have faith that someday.
No, I didn't mean that.
There will have been some benefits of said weekend.
I was thinking the long run since that video till now is
okay. This is the long run.
This is the long run.
I gotcha. Okay. That's great. And I would say the number one benefit is just honesty, just bringing up the sorts of conversations that that we have, but we hadn't had conversations like we did in the video in that topic. We had very honest conversations in other areas of our lives, but in that specific topic of specifically like the outward facing Bethany and the world and Girldefined and the critics and all this stuff, we hadn't really gone there for a while like that deeply.
Because we know we disagree.
Because we know there are some disagreements. And
so it's like, why rehash it? We haven't ever gotten to the point where we see eye to eye. So it's like, we know, it's just kind of like we agree to disagree. And that encompasses a lot, not just like how we view in that conversation. It was like the haters, but it's like beliefs, what I do with Girldefined, the stuff I write about, talk about. We've known we don't see eye to eye convictions wise on some of that stuff. So it can just be stressful to like rehash it when like, why are you going to rehash it? We know we don't agree. So like, let's just keep moving forward.
Yeah, well, we will rehash.
Okay, so if you are not keen on, if you weren't raised in church, if you weren't raised in a strict Christian household, so when you are, because you don't just date to date, right? You date to marry. And there's a scripture in the Bible that says not to be unequally yoked. So what I was taught that meant from my mom and from the church I was raised in was to not just not have a relationship with somebody who isn't a Christian, but also not to have good friends that don't believe in the same thing. And it wasn't even, it was such a strict environment that it wasn't even, I'm okay to date some man that is a Christian. It was within the same church. So not even the same denomination, but within the four walls of the same church that I went to. But if I was older, then it had to be the same denomination. So my sister would explain to me when I was like, well, what does it matter? But I mean, of course, like the person I'm going to marry is going to be a Christian, but what does it matter if they're the same denomination or not? And she said, well, whenever you have children, what are you going to say to your child if, he's a Catholic, if your husband's a Catholic or something, and you're standing in service and you start speaking in tongues and your husband doesn't because he doesn't believe in it? Like, what are you going to tell your children about that? And that's going to be such a divisive thing, so that's how I was raised doing that. So Bethany in later in this video, she does talk about how, and she also put it on her Instagram stories, that if Dave would have been talking about deconstruction and like his beliefs before they got married, she wouldn't have married him. I know in some people's opinions that might sound a little harsh. However, I do understand that coming from that very fundamentalist Christian background, because it is said in the Bible to not be unequally yoked, meaning now they are technically unequally yoked. And I do have to give credit to Bethany in this because, and you'll hear later in the video how understanding she is and how loving she is still to Dave, which is absolutely amazing. However, I could not imagine how difficult it is for them, how difficult it would be to be married to somebody who is deconstructing, who doesn't have that same relationship with God as you do and as like you thought they had. Because when you are, her business, like Girldefined, is a nonprofit Christian organization. So she is quite literally, like, her brand is Christianity. So to have a husband who's like, I don't even know if I'm a Christian anymore, that's that's hard. That's so difficult when you are utterly a just full on Christian and you believe that nothing can sway you from being a Christian, but then your husband is like, I don't know if I'm a Christian anymore. Man, I couldn't imagine that. Like, I would not want to live that life. So even, me, and then the dating pool, years ago, before I had met my now husband, one of my qualifications that I wanted was a man who believed in God. I wasn't as strict as, well, I need you to be Assemblies of God, Pentecostal, you can't be a Catholic, whatever. But even today, I don't think I would be able to be with somebody who was an atheist or who was a Scientologist, like who believed in Scientology or had a completely different view, because even though I'm deconstructing and it's still, a process, and I don't, label myself solely as a Christian because of what I was taught, I also still hold my faith in God. Again, different God than what I grew up believing in. But I'm also not an atheist. I haven't completely, shoved my belief of God out the window. That's not the case at all. So even me deconstructing, I could not even imagine being with somebody who had the complete opposite mindset and belief system. That's hard for my brain to even wrap around. So I have to give a lot of credit to Bethany, because I that is something that would be extremely difficult.
Hash it if apparently a small film crew comes to town to watch us, then we'll rehash it a little bit, which we did, and it was really it was good. It brought up a lot of really interesting, good things to rehash.
So first off, I just want to say, anyone who's giving Paul and Morgan any grief from that video.
Let's talk about the grief that Paul and Morgan did.
They came and stayed with us. We got a firsthand look at these people, and we've known that, we've been together with them in person one other time, and we've just connected through, now, as friends, long distance, because they're just awesome people. But they're so amazing, and they were so kind and genuine and so full of integrity and to their word on everything they said. They gave us the final, say on anything in the video to have it removed, whatever. They are just so awesome. And as a married couple behind the scenes, it's we have seen them and they are just so kind to one another. Paul is so kind to taking care of Morgan, and Morgan's so kind to him. They're just an awesome couple. We're genuinely inspired by their marriage and by them being here.
I was inspired by Paul. By the time they left, I had a couple thoughts. One was I really like them, kind of I wish they would stay, that sort of thing, because I thought they were great. We would totally hang out with them if they lived here and all this. And I thought I was particularly inspired by Paul and the way that he treated Morgan with respect and with care and looked out for her, and I liked their dynamic, and I liked the way they related to each other in a lot of ways. I felt inspired to be a better husband to Bethany. So
yeah, I think that anyone who's giving any grief, or even I don't know, whatever the reels they're posting or things they're saying now, it's people just want to find something about it, but we have nothing but good things to say about. I think that's true.
Well, I'm very positive. I'm just very positive about them and about,
After the hard conversation, we've had a couple of hard weeks.
Yeah.
In the sense that we've just pressed into a lot of this stuff rather than just moving on. We've just really been hey, it's been more of let's just be super honest and seek outside counsel. We had our literally... a few days after Paul and Morgan were here, you had our pastor come over. We literally were sat in our living room for 3 hours. Yeah. He was just kind of a third party listening to the 3-hour version of what you saw at the dinner table, and so much more, just trying to figure out okay, what do I need to change? Does he need to change? What if we just can't, we just see differently? How can we love each other still? How can we give each other grace? And it's been one thing like that after another, I feel.
Yeah. So a lot of people are wondering, Dave, to what he sounds like he's deconstructing, to what degree?
Yeah.
And you have people that are kind of more like, oh, he's a Christian but nice, or he's like not. He's just compromised his faith, or he doesn't have strong faith, or whatever.
Or some people are mad at Paul for like insinuating
mad at Paul for
that you're deconstructing.
Yeah, which I would say in that case, with Paul and I, we also had more private conversations, and so Paul's operating with more information than what you see in the video, and so
So the table conversation that they're referring to, they were all eating dinner and they were recording just really, really, in my opinion, and a lot of other creators' opinions, really personal questions. And obviously, like, this whole thing is personal, but personal to the extent of like, maybe this shouldn't be on camera. So that's what they're referring to. And the rehashing was answering questions that Paul was asking Dave and Bethany about social media stuff. And, when they say they're rehashing things, because they had previously talked about like trying to overcome these obstacles, and those questions kind of like brought more things to the surface. And that's why they were saying that they had, kind of a struggle time after they had left, because they said they rehashed a lot of stuff and it was all bubbling up to the surface again. So I think at this time they're really trying to just figure out how to still be a married couple and love each other while their fundamental beliefs are changing.
Get up off Paul, So the bottom line is I had a new level of mental crisis that week that Paul and Morgan were here. And it started before they got here with some random men's group stuff I was doing, and as well as certain questions that I was asking. Even while Paul and Morgan were here, I was asking some people that know me pretty well, or what are my greatest weaknesses, and you were inviting all this criticism. I was inviting a lot of criticism. I did this thing called, this like hot seat thing where you sit there and these guys kind of like, you stand or sit there and the guys poke at you and try to kind of get you to get provoked, and then we talk about it, talk about what comes up.
So it was kind of a rough week before Paul and Morgan got there, because you were like having all this, like inviting all this criticism into your life, and you were kind of like,
I was grumpy. And then I found, one of the things that got me through?
What?
For the first time in, 15 years, Billy Joel releases a new song.
Oh, yes, that's right.
And it is phenomenal, and I loved it so much. Maybe you love me, maybe you don't. Maybe you'll learn to, and maybe you won't. I was mowing the lawn before Paul and Morgan got here, and I was listening to this song, and I might have been crying, I don't know. And
because he's a crying man.
Because I'm a crying man. And it's such a good song if you haven't heard it. And so I was already in that space, and then we had a ton of conversations with Paul and Morgan and with Bethany about all these things. And I have a lot of differences with Paul, Morgan, and Bethany when it comes to just ideologically and values, Christianity, all kinds of stuff. So then we had that dinner table conversation. That was the first day they were here. It's edited, like it was the last thing, but it actually happened earlier.
The first day.
And then the next day, there was more stuff, more conversations, and in pickleball, which, by the way, they absolutely crushed us on. They destroyed our guys. Ate our lunch on. Yeah, that was some poorly edited content, and I mean that in the sense that it did not give you a realistic picture of what actually happened. They kicked our butts.
Extremely gracious.
100%, and they were very kind and all that. Yeah, but they were very good. They're much better than we are. But next time we'll see. So then I had more emotional, issues and crashes and stuff, and it had to do with our marriage, and it had to do with like love, and it had to do with faith and God and Jesus and surrender versus, like pull it together, and just like And basically what happened from all that is there's a lot of different points that I won't get into because it takes so long. But what basically happened is I got to this point of like, I've been circling deconstruction, just to use the term loosely. I'm okay with the term.
I'm not against it.
You're not against it.
I'm not against it at all. I think there's this misconception that I'm against it, but it's more just like when you typically hear the term deconstructing, like I typically think of someone like completely deconstructing from their faith. And yes, I am deconstructing certain parts of my faith, but I personally am still very much like a believer in Jesus and very much think what like trying to understand the word and living it out practically is important. So I don't want to be labeled. I don't really care for the label, I guess, but I'm okay with it anyway.
Yeah. And
I do understand what she's saying, because in this deconstruction movement, it seems that a lot of people completely shove the faith that they were taught when they were younger. They completely leave Christianity and go the other extreme, which would be atheism. And I've seen that over and over and over. Just like, when you are raised in the church, 9 times out of 10, you're conservative. And once the deconstruction hits, you're now liberal, right? So I've seen that a whole lot. And I really like what she's saying here because it's very true, and a lot of deconstructing, and that's why, that's why a lot of people kind of question what, even my political beliefs are because of the things that I do put on social media. And they're like, wait a second, you said you're deconstructing, so why are you putting this on there? I'm like, well, just because I'm deconstructing my religious beliefs doesn't automatically mean that I have completely thrown everything away. They are deconstructing the legalism things that she was taught, and now they're going to a different church. So even if you go to a different church, there's a means of deconstructing. So I do agree. I do like what she's saying here, that she doesn't necessarily not like it, but there's a stigma related to deconstruction. So I do definitely agree with that. Now, side note here, there are 7 puppies upstairs and 3 grown dogs, okay? And I think they just got back to the house. So if you hear some whining up here or some stomping around from the ceiling, that's just what's going on. Again, I'm doing what I can right now, so can't be perfect, but just letting you know, you might hear some babies in the background.
I'm okay with the term for sure, and I'll often use it. I know it's popular and it's kind of, rings a bell, so it's kind of easy, but there are kind of 2 different types of deconstruction that I think of when it comes to the popular stuff that is kind of happening in this trend, the trend that's happening. And one is, it's almost like you're consciously deconstructing in the sense of you're actively questioning beliefs and like, is this true? Is that true? And it's almost like you're taking things apart. And then there's the kind of deconstruction where people describe it as pulling a thread and it's just kind of like the whole thing falls apart. It's like you're not even going towards everything. It's just kind of like everything's sort of crumbling, and then you're just in this crisis mode and nothing's left. And I would say for me, it feels a little bit more towards the first one, but I'm sure there's probably a mix. The things that changed for me through the course of that weekend with Paul and Morgan, and actually we were at Zach and Kristen's one night, and there was some conversation there, and through the course of all this, and then these moments of like surrendering, trying to just find my identity in Christ and get strength through that, and to be more emotionally stable and all of this stuff. It basically, something broke over that week, and I didn't feel tied down anymore to like basically anything that would keep me from fully questioning my beliefs and my faith when it comes to this stuff. And I even found myself wanting Christianity to not be true, just because of my own personal experiences with trying to have it be real in my own life, and just the disappointment that I found where it hasn't my perspective, it hasn't really seemed to help me. It hasn't really seemed to make me any more of a better husband or a better man. It seems like when I do other things that are more taking charge of my own development, it seems like I improve more. And then it seems like when I try to find my identity in Christ, it just doesn't seem to work. And so I got to this point where it's like, I hope this isn't true, because I don't want to go through life always having to think I'm the worst, and in order to find the life in Christ, and that whole thing where it sort of requires you to feel really bad, or to at least admit, you're just sort of nothing and you have nothing, and so that's why you need Jesus. And isn't that such great news? It's like, it's just stopped being good news for me, because it's like
this hit the freaking nail on the head when it comes to deconstruction, because Christianity, you are taught that you were born unworthy, that you were born a sinner, that you were born absolutely nothing. So you were raised believing that you innately are absolutely nothing without God. So if you do not have God in your life, then you are worthless. Everything that you do is worthless. And then you don't even have to be completely told that verbatim, but that's what you're taught, because without God, I'm absolutely nothing. Nothing I do outside of God matters. I had purpose when I found God. I had purpose when I got saved. And just like he said, I'm tired of feeling like I don't like myself, like I'm not worth anything, because when you are feeling that, well now you have Jesus, so now you're worth something. But why though? Why do we have to be less than as soon as we're born, to be innately less than, for a man to come die for our sins, but because of a man who died for us, now we're worth something? That's when my deconstruction started, because that's when I started thinking holy shit, we worship human sacrifice. If we, at any point, if somebody came to us and was like, hey, I've said this in a video before, but if there was a cult or a church that said, hey, I believe in, this guy named Robert or whatever, and Robert died for us, so now I'm worth something, we would have thought that was freaking weird, and we would have labeled it as a human sacrifice cult, a cult that believes in human sacrifice. What is the difference, right? And I really, really struggle with believing that Jesus died on the cross for us, because it's freaking human sacrifice. In what world is that right? And if we believe in Jesus, then that means that we are nothing, that we believe that we are the sinners, and it took one man dying for our sins for us to finally realize and know that we are finally worth something. So he is freaking hitting the damn nail on the head, and I really hope this spikes some thought process for Bethany, and was oh, well, no, you're not worthless, but how am I going to teach my kids? I really hope this allows Bethany to start thinking about, not that I want her to deconstruct her. That's not it at all. But what I just hope that she does is have an open mind of the people who are deconstructing and those who don't want to feel less than anymore, and to find their identity in Christ. And that should be the problem, the problem solver for everything, which when he's talking about outside things, he's talking about therapy and personal development in a sense, because in the church, therapy is not hey, go to therapy. They say seek outside counsel, but Christian counsel, so they can bring you back to the word. But sometimes you need to look at your inner self, like the way that you were raised when you were a child and the way that your parents were, to figure out the problems that you're having, when you're an adult. And I think that's very, very important. And I think that's what he's talking about when he's, seeking the outside therapy, when he's seeking, personal development, when he's actually working on himself versus saying, God, I give this all to you. I find my identity in you, and we're going to go about the day. That doesn't solve anything. I've said this over and over and over, that it's just a band-aid on something that really needs to be taken care of. But fundamentalist Christians don't necessarily see it that way. And I'm so glad that he's talking about it.
This is basically, if it's not working for me, then the answer is always, well, you really need to know God's love more, or you're not trusting him, or you just need to find your identity in him and rest in that. And so it's like, it just becomes another work. Like, oh, I'm not resting enough.
This is where perfectionism really comes in the church. And this is what I struggled with a lot in high school and college, and with my walk with God in those time frames, because perfectionism, if you are struggling with something, as Dave is saying, then the church will tell you, well, you're not resting enough in God. Like, you're not praying enough. You need to go read your Bible more. Like, are you really giving it to God? So then, like he just said, it becomes another work. Like, well, what is that next thing that I'm not doing well that I need to start doing better? And then it becomes a one-up thing in your own life. Like in my household, if we did not vacuum to the way that my mom wanted us to vacuum, where you can see all the lines, you got to move the recliner, you got to do all those things, then she would reflect it back to us saying, hey, if you were doing it for God, you would have done this 100%. So do it over again, but do it for the Lord, because that's going to your work is going to reflect that. So if you half-assed vacuuming, then afterwards you would feel bad because you didn't give all of it to God while you were cleaning. It becomes absolutely exhausting. So if I would have got like a C or a D on a test, or even a B sometimes, it would be, oh, well, what did I not do well enough for God that I didn't get a better grade? Like, it is absolutely, thinking about it, it's absolutely insane. And this is why I needed to go to therapy, because I had an addiction to perfectionism, and it was ruining my life because I couldn't just enjoy something because I had to give 100%. Like, I wasn't praying enough. I wasn't fasting enough. I wasn't doing whatever enough to actually see improvement, to actually do life well. So it would get extremely, extremely exhausting, and to the point where, I mean, it's just, you don't have a lot of friends. Like, it's not fun for other people to even hang out with you because of the perfectionism. You have to be good at everything that you're doing. It's actually insane. It's insanity. So what he is talking about is absolutely a topic that a lot of people who are deconstructing go through, and he's verbalizing it very, very well.
Isn't this working? It's, so there was some frustration there. In addition to all the truth claims and all the things that have been circling for the last 8 years for me, even before we were married, all that stuff has been there. I've been very aware of a lot of arguments and podcasts and people and debates and all kinds of stuff. It's not like I've just been in this community where I don't hear influences. It's like I've known a lot about this stuff.
For sure. This wasn't the last.
And over time, I've read more books, and I've learned more, and I've seen more. And so but I felt constrained by myself, my own inability or lack of desire to challenge certain institutions that I'm a part of, or challenge certain communities, because that would throw things into chaos. That would, it would be hard to go to church. It would be hard to be married to Bethany. It would be hard to do a lot of these things. I'm established in Christian community, so it just makes it, because of my own choice to be in Christian community, it makes it challenging if I'm going to basically say, hey, I don't think I'm a Christian anymore. But over the course of the weekend with Paul and Morgan and with other people, I basically got to a point where it wasn't enough of a reason for me to not take that next step. And for me, it's like just kind of acknowledging all of my questions and doubts just all at once and just being like, actually, I'm not sure this is true. I kind of hope it's not. I say that, but it's like, that's a lot for Bethany to go through.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I feel like there's a lot packed in there. It's definitely not just been since like the Paul and Morgan thing. I feel like you've had a new level of boldness or a new level of freedom to share those things since that weekend. But like, you've been studying this stuff and thinking about this for like years.
And in fact, 1 year ago, almost 1 year ago, because it was the time of Lent, but last year, I had something like this happen where I had all of these, I was like talking to a pastor and I was like, I'm not sure I should be taking communion and whatever. And we had the question of whether to become members and all this stuff. And basically at that time, I was still kind of in this, okay, I can kind of like make the leap of faith. And so I just sort of took this leap of like, all right, I can believe, I don't know it, and I can't, this is not so rational, but I'll just like, okay, that's what faith is. Faith is just kind of, dedicating yourself and trusting and, okay, so I can, say what I believe even though I don't like feel it, because what is belief anyway, and I kind of used just relativism on myself and be like, well, we don't know anyway, so you just might as well dedicate yourself or whatever. And so, okay, all right, I'm a Christian and I can hold this and I can, whatever. And so that happened a year ago, and I stayed in the Christian community, but as kind of like giving assent to this stuff and taking communion and being a part of this. And so that's what's different now. I basically got to a point where I was like, I don't need to hold up any of that. I don't need my friends to think that I'm one of them in this sense. I don't need people on the internet to think. I mean, that's.
Yeah, deconstructing, it gets to a point where, even if you're in the church and the people who you're hanging out with, you just have way too many questions and way too many, iffy, like, I don't know if that's the truth, so I can't necessarily teach it to the youth, I don't think that's right. That's not even the Bible, what you're talking about. So it gets to the point where you're like, whatever, like, I can't fully put myself into this life anymore, so I'm going to, start stepping back a little bit. That's exactly what happened to me.
It's not really as much of a concern, I would say, in some ways, but it's really more like my marriage, my church community, basically the life that I have. A lot of my work has been in the Christian space, so it's just so much of that. It feels like I finally got the balls to basically be honest about things that I've thought for a long time. And I have to apologize to Bethany because I haven't always been honest with her. And when we got married, I had already started Deconstruction. And I had read quite a lot fewer books when we got married, and had listened to podcasts and stuff, and was already very friendly towards certain forms of progressive Christianity and stuff like that. And when I got married to Bethany, I thought, well, this is going to be a problem because, and I wanted Bethany, and I love her. And so at the time I was like, this is just going to cause problems in our relationship. So I was just like, all right, I believe that the Bible is your word, and I accept this authority, and blah, blah, blah. And I just kind of tried to push myself over the edge to make it work. And that,
I wonder if like in hindsight, he can say that he was deconstructing at this time, but I wonder if he actually knew that he was deconstructing when he married Bethany. If that's the truth, then I think it's, you know, kind of shitty that he did not come forth and talk about his faith, because she wouldn't have married him if he was in the midst of deconstructing. So I think that's a little bit shitty, but I can see, and I ask that because in my past, I can see where I kind of started to deconstruct. However, I didn't know it then. I was just like, no, like I am a Christian. Like this is, you know, what he even said, like Bible, I'm a Bible believing Christian, and this is the living, breathing word of God. And I do believe everything that's in it. But then there are times where I remember I'm thinking, like, that doesn't make sense. Like, why are we teaching this? But I'm still a Bible believer, you know? So now, in hindsight, I can see where I kind of started deconstructing when I started to have those questions, but I wasn't fully aware of that yet, because I was still really, really pushing that I was a Christian. So I think that's kind of what he's talking about. But if he full on, like, well knew that he wasn't going to be a Christian, or he was deconstructing, but he, I mean, lied to Bethany, then that's definitely a problem. But if he's, you know, in hindsight, I mean, that's when I started. You know, when I started deconstructing, I was actually listening to the Joe Rogan podcast, because he talks about religion a lot, but he also talks about, you know, which I'm not going to completely get into it, but he does talk about how the people in the Bible were also taking mushrooms, you know, and that might be where the burning bush came from, you know, all those things. And I was like, oh my God, he's like, that's, wow, like that's correct. Like, what's going on? So that's kind of when I started deconstructing, but I didn't know it then, but in hindsight, I can definitely see it now. So I hope that's what he's talking about, because I really, really hope that he didn't manipulate and lie to her just to be able to marry her. But that's something that we may never know. But that my thoughts on that.
That was disingenuous and a lack of integrity, honestly. And at the time, it was a weak thing to do, and I didn't really know how to, like, stand up and just say, this is what I think, in the face of the anxiety that it could cause both in other people and in myself. So that's kind of changed, and so I've apologized to Bethany. I said, you know, I'm sorry for selling you a picture of myself that's not been true, and you know, making it seem like I believe a certain thing or am a certain way in order to make you feel better, when I'm really not. Mm-hmm. So how's that been for you?
Yeah, I mean, thank you for sharing that. That is a lot to share. Does that feel okay to share? Do you feel okay?
Yeah, I feel like I just kind of rammed through it.
Yeah. I mean, that's like a big deal. So
it's a huge deal. Yeah.
Acknowledge that. It's a big deal to acknowledge it. And I mean, I would say it's not something that I would have, like, I don't think when we got married I would have thought you were going in this direction for sure. But I think maybe like a year or so into our marriage, just your interests and books and what you like to study and stuff, it was like, okay, I think that it was, you know, I could start to see that coming in. But I mean, we've had conversations about this sort of stuff. I've not been like totally in the dark, for a while now, I would say. So I think that's definitely been, I wouldn't say you've been like totally dishonest recently, maybe just when we got married.
Maybe at the very beginning.
Got the girl. Surprise.
Well, it wasn't like the next day I was like, surprise, I'm an atheist. You just did it with an atheist.
I mean, yeah, people have a lot of questions about that. Like what I think, what you think, how that works in our relationship. I think that we are uniquely gifted to love each other and work through a relationship like this. I think that even though it's hard for me, it does not, I am not like, I don't know. I have so much love for you, and it is emotional.
I can understand. I can understand where the emotional part comes from. I mean, number one, like, she thought he was going to be Bible believing husband, forever. And the, Christian household, Christian leader of the household, rather. But another thing that really, really sucks for Bethany now is, I'm sure it has been running through her brain that now that he doesn't call himself a Christian anymore, she's probably thinking, oh my God, what happens if he dies? Like, I'll never see him again. Like, what happens if, Jesus comes back? He's gonna be here. And so I know that she's not just because that's where my mind would go. Like, she's not just thinking here on earth, like, oh my God, this is so difficult. But now I would put my paycheck on that she's really thinking about eternally now. And that's really hard. That's difficult. Believe in heaven and hell or don't, it still doesn't invalidate her belief in it and her thinking that, oh my God, like, if he dies right now, I'm never going to see him again. That's pretty deep and very dark.
A lot of people have wondered and have asked, like, in the questions and stuff, how that is. And I am emotional, so we're just going to roll with it. Or else we'll never finish. I think that, like, when I think back to, I think this is something that, like, I really believe, like, when I think back to when we got married, I still look back and it's like, I have so much confidence that we're supposed to be together. And I have so much confidence that we are, like, super uniquely gifted to, like, really love each other. And I think we have I think that and people have told us, like, that we sought counsel from and stuff, just have been so encouraging and supportive of how we've been able to, like, press toward each other and love each other and have these conversations and not just, like, run away from each other in fear or, like, separate, but we've been able to, like, grow. And even though it's hard, this big difference of ours now, like, I think,
man, and I bet that she also has these moments of being mad at God because she got married when she was 30, which in fundamentalist Christian years is like 79, right? So she got married older, and I would imagine that her mindset right now, well, maybe not right now, but, like, goes in waves of the grief is like, God, why did you have me wait so long to get married to give me this situation? Because I was faithful. I was a virgin when I got married. I did the right thing in Christianity, and now this is my life. Whereas, I was supposed to have this beautiful marriage when, I got married when I was 30. I had this mindset of what not a perfect, but like a Christian relationship would be, and now that is absolutely no longer the case. I would imagine that she has had her moments of being pretty pissed at God.
We love each other more now than we did, 3 weeks ago, a year ago, when we got married, obviously.
Yeah.
And, like, my heart is filled with so much love for you, and I want to be the woman with you. Like, I don't want to be anywhere else, like, I don't want a different man. Like, I want to be with you in this, journey, even though it is hard. I want to be with you. But it is hard. It's hard to think, like, I mean, we are going to church together right now. And, well, you know, you are leading our family in like a morning devotional.
Yeah.
And, you know, you're just more careful with the words. Like you say, like, this is what the Bible says, this is what the Bible teaches.
Yeah, I can tell Davey, because I'm thrilled if Davey's, you know, learning about the Bible and all that. It's like, it's great, you know? Yeah, but I'll say things like, you know, the Bible teaches that God loves us or something like that, rather than like, oh, God loves us.
I mean, it's really sweet. I think that's the thing when you hear about like, oh, where like one couple deconstructs and the other doesn't. At least even having talked to friends and stuff, there can be a lot of like, I don't know, like even just that sort of stuff, like talking about the Bible or talking about Jesus or church can become like super high tension. But
that's what my concern is, getting down the line. So the more that he deconstructs, I think the more that he's not, in my opinion, the more that he's not going to want to teach his children about it, maybe, which I think that's when it's going to get even more difficult. Even when I am deconstructing, I still talk to God I still talk about God to my kids. I talk about God to my grandbaby. You know, it's not something that, what he was saying, it's not something that like, I don't want to not teach my children. There's just a point of indoctrination that I went through that I do not want my kids nor my grandbabies to go through. However, I think believing in God is wonderful. You know, believing in the different stories in the Bible are, you know, great. However, I do wonder when he's gonna be like, you know what, I don't want to go to church this Sunday, y'all just go, and then he starts not going to church regularly and not taking his family through devotions anymore. I really, really hope that that's not the case and then they are able to figure this out. But my concern is that they are going to continue to be even more unequally yoked, because I know that people are like, yeah, he's deconstructing, like this is a wonderful thing because he's asking the questions and stuff. But for Bethany, I know that she's deconstructing, you know, to a certain extent, but she's still a Christian. However, I mean, like, that's, you know, great for him that he's asking questions, but I don't want to say like concern, because I'm not thinking about it every day, but I really, really am a bit fearful over their marriage, because I don't want, even though I don't, you know, agree with the shit that Bethany puts on Girldefined, like, I still want them to be a successful couple. And I couldn't imagine, like I said at the beginning, I could not imagine what the feelings that she had of just grief over losing a person that you thought you had married. That's so tough. And so I really actually hope that they figure it out, because I don't want them to completely drift apart because he is now deconstructing. Like, I really hope that doesn't happen. I know that there are people who do hope that happens, that he completely, fully deconstructs, but I don't think that's right at all. I really hope they continue to figure out their belief system so they can remain a happy couple, not just remain, you know, together forever, but together forever successfully.
I've appreciated just like your maturity in that way of not being like, well, I'm not doing that, or don't, you know, don't teach the kids about that. You've been just like very, at least now, like seeing the value in the community of that, and just the value of at least our kids being there for now. And I think that, yeah, like Davey has such a genuine interest in like God and in the Bible, and I just really appreciate how you are willing to, you know, like, I don't know, feed that interest or whatever. I don't know how you want to say it.
He might bring it up, you know, when, you know, or he does. He brings it up every so often. It's fun, you know. It's great to hear him learning stuff, and yeah.
Yeah. So I think that it's more like, when I think about it, I guess it's more those fears of like, what exactly does the future look like for us and for this? Because at this point, like, we both see ourselves like not, you see yourself more deconstructing and I see myself not. Like, in the sense of like, I see myself like, I don't know. I like being a Christian. I like that, trust in the Lord and stuff.
I guess maybe it'll be a competition of who can love the other person the best, and thereby making the best apologetic, the best argument for their view.
It's really sweet though, because I do have friends who like are in my position of like their husband's trying to deconstruct or whatever, and just like, I just feel like you've been and continue to strive to just like love me so well and be so kind and sensitive and patient. And
that is a misconception of people who are not Christians. I remember my dad telling me when I was very, very young, I don't remember the exact context, but he said, well, you don't have any morals or ethics outside of being a Christian. Like, why would you do something nice for somebody or have morals if you're not a Christian? So I grew up believing that if you were not a Christian, that you didn't have morals and you didn't have any type of ethics at all. So I do like what he's saying here, like, okay, well, we can have a competition of who's gonna love the person the most.
Getting up in the morning and being like, oh, I might not be a Christian. I find a heightened level of like, well, then everything that happens is it's like my responsibility. Like, if I don't like something, it's like, it's on me. It's not, I can't blame God for anything, it's just, and I can't like spiritualize things like, oh, maybe God wants this hard thing to be happening to me in order to teach me something and stuff. It's like, if you don't believe in that, and then it's just like, oh, I feel crappy because I feel crappy and whatever. I don't know. Maybe there's a reason, maybe there's not. Maybe I need to eat something, maybe whatever. And maybe I need to confront myself about an issue that I have and I'm not living with my integrity or something. And I still very much.
That is so great. I love that he brings this up, because one thing what the church doesn't explain and or teaches you is that if, you're doing things in life and you keep getting the same, outcome, for example, or whatever the case may be, if you keep, breaking up with your girlfriends or boyfriends keep breaking up with you, instead of like, well, you're just getting the wrong people or God just didn't want you with that person. He's talking about reflecting on the inside, reflecting your integrity and your self-worth and the person that you are. So looking within you instead of blaming everything on God and or blaming everything on Satan. For example, if you're a YouTuber, Brittany Dawn does this shit all the time and says, oh, well, Satan did not want me to record today, so my camera kept dying. Like, no, bitch, you forgot your fucking battery. That shit drives me freaking nuts. So it gives so much power to the enemy and to Satan instead of putting responsibility on yourself and blaming shit on God, just like he said, you're going through these bad things in life and saying, well, God really wants me to overcome, like, what's a reason why this is happening to me? Instead, sometimes life just happens. Sometimes bad shit happens and it sucks. You can choose to have a mentality of like, okay, what does God want to teach me during this time? And you might learn something, or it could be just bad and it sucks. And like having a mom and a sister die, for example, at the end of the day, you don't want to be like, okay, why did God do this to me? And what is a few things that have been good outcomes of people dying in my life? My therapist had to be like, Bethany, you don't have to see the good in your mom dying. You don't have to see the good in that. It can just suck and that's okay. And so going to therapy really allowed me to do that. And I think he is also getting there as well. The over spiritualization of things, it can be helpful sometimes because it can give you hope, or it can do the exact opposite, and it can allow you to just put all the responsibility on God instead of looking at yourself and trying to be a better person, and just taking the fucking responsibility, owning it, and being better.
To that, the integrity stuff hasn't gone away. I would say this is a step in the direction of more integrity, more honesty, even more strength in a lot of ways, I would say. And I've been we can get into some of the comments and stuff in the video, but there was a couple of comments in particular that really landed with me, and that I've been taking as fuel to be able to grow and to do a lot better.
I mean, just from wrapping this up, because I know a lot of people are asking questions about this part, people are asking what more are the differences? So he uses language and you don't. It's
the cussing should probably be the least of your worries at this point.
It's more of our difference in our faith journey, our belief in Christ and the Word, and all of that. It's tough. I'm not going to pretend like I'm some superwoman and just it's hard, and it's just it is a lot, but
I didn't notice this before, but he's 2 inches away from her face. And shaking his head, that would make me even more anxious of, expressing my feelings when my husband's face is right here. And that's so funny.
I think I was telling you today, we have so many things that we, even just when I think back to I don't know, dating or whatever, it's just the stuff we love to do together, the unique relationship we have. That's one of the reasons, from the beginning when we started dating, I was I want to do YouTube with you, because I just, and it's going to sound so selfish, but it's I love our relationship. And I think we're a super special couple. I just think we have a willingness to be real and open and not putting on a show, and just just really a fun relationship. And I just think that, not in a teaching sense, but just in a sharing our life sense, that's something that I just have really loved about us. And so it's would it be awesome if we both just shared the same faith super strongly, and just were both felt so encouraged by that with each other? Of course, I think we'd both love that, whatever that.
Yeah, being on the same page, that'd be.
If I were yes, deconstruction, babe. I don't know.
It might have crossed my mind. Hey.
And if
I'll just have to make deconstruction look absolutely attractive, just the most loving husband.
So yeah, I would say that in a year, I'm sure we'll have a lot more to say.
Oh man, can you imagine what happened in a week?
Yeah,
what is going to happen in a year?
It's I love our kids. I love you. Yeah. I love the life we're building together. Yeah. I have so much excitement for just the family that we've been given, potentially in the future, more, it's just the adventures, we have so many dreams of places we want to travel, things we want to do together, just the kind of kids we're, it's just all of
going
that.
To Costa Rica, maybe.
It's just so special. So yeah, I think you have to look at your life, and anyone at any time. There are people who have a lot more in common than the two of us, and who are way more miserable, It's we don't have that in common right now, but the way that I don't know, it's just your focus and where you're going and what you're doing. And at least that's what I choose to do.
Okay, I want to say, Bethany, by far the highlight of the highlights of 24 Hours with Bethany was Bethany.
No.
Paul and Morgan were great, of course, and but I just, and Bethany you were stunning. And just the kindness that you showed, and the your understanding heart.
Man, now that I'm thinking about it too, I think that Bethany is feeling and or will feel just a sense of like weight on her shoulders, because as a Christian couple, you know, you put your full trust into your husband. And I'm not saying like this doesn't happen outside of the church, but you are fully in your feminine. You rely on your husband to be the masculine energy man, you know, head in your relationship. And, you know, and the Christian man, his job is to lead, you know, is to be the leader. So he's right under God, and then under your husband is, you know, the wife. And so for Bethany no longer to be receiving Christian guidance from her husband, it makes me think that that puts the weight on her shoulders to be that for her family, and to be that for even for Dave. So I bet she's feeling a lot of pressure, a lot of added pressure that she wouldn't be feeling if her husband had that same strong Christian belief as she did, if that makes sense. Now, I'm not saying, you know, that's how you're supposed to live your life or not, but I'm saying like as a fundamentalist Christian, that's how Christian marriages work. You know, husband is right under God, under the husband is the wife, and then, you know, the children. So the wife looks to the man for guidance, not just in life, but, you know, for Christian values, Christian whatever. So that I would imagine that is just a weight on her shoulders right now. And I really empathize with her. Sympathize, I think, would more be the word, because I don't understand what she's going through. But man, that's a lot.
And your ability to handle all of the differences that we have and still speak in such a, you know, just a lovely way about me and about our relationship. It was really beautiful. I am so grateful for Bethany and her. She's really blown me away with just her kindness and her open heart. And
I love you so much.
You're a hell of a woman,
babe.
She likes it a little bit. No, I should. You a little bit.
Here's the deal. It's like, this is my man, you know. Like, no. If you're gonna, you know, I'm just not one of those wives where I'm gonna be like, I don't use the language. Every time you use language, I'm going to give you the cold shoulder to show you not. It's like, you're my man. I love you.
Too much fun for that.
I'm going to, you know, it's like, I'm just going to accept you just like you do for me. I do things that you don't like, and you accept me, and just like, so it's like, you can either give the cold shoulder or laugh along and
come on.
Fall more in love. It's like, fall more in love.
So here's the, it bumped a tiny little hair in my nose.
I'm so sorry.
Oh my god.
Okay, you want to talk about comments?
Yeah, let's talk about. I'm so sorry.
Oh my gosh, did I really?
I think you broke my face. Yeah, let's talk about comments. Okay, the comments. We have been known to sit in our bed and scroll comments and laugh our heads off, because some of this stuff is so funny.
Man, people, they just, well, okay, I've loved all the comments, like people just like feeling like they saw a new side of us, gaining a new, of course,
a lot
like
of just nice, genuine
all
comments.
the nice, genuine comments, you know, really love those. But I just think it's hilarious how almost every single person in the comments like picks someone they want to side with. That's just so funny to me. Like, I like this person, I like that, but I don't like that. It's just like everyone's got their person.
I know one of my favorite comments on me is, Dave is a sociopath. It's like, yes.
Oh my gosh. So when it comes to the comments, the places that I've looked at comments are the Instagram Reels. like that Paul and Morgan post and that we've collabed on, there's like a lot of comments on those, like snippets from the video.
Yeah.
And then obviously like the main Paul and Morgan 24 Hours With, that has a lot of comments. And then they did a reaction video to their own video.
To their video.
And that was fun to watch. And they have the comments on there. And the only other video I've watched about this video, thanks to your recommendation, is the Zelf on the Shelf video with Sam and Tanner.
Samantha and Tanner. Shout out to Samantha and Tanner of Zelf on the Shelf. They're two beautiful people, and the world is better for them.
I had never heard of them. I don't watch like anything on YouTube, like any videos about me, about Girldefined. Like people might be like, that's the main critic of Girldefined. And it's like, I have never heard of them because I literally do not spend any time on Reddit, any time on YouTube. Like,
you're not saying Zelf on the Shelf is the main critic?
No. I'm just saying like I don't know a lot about it. So Zelf on the Shelf has made videos about Girldefined. I had never heard of them.
And this is true because I think some people do think like you watch reaction videos and stuff like that, or you're scrolling Reddit or something, and it's not that way.
I don't.
Yeah, she does not watch this stuff.
But
I don't watch. I would watch
either.
hardly any of it. It's just I happen to be.
How'd you come across the Zelf on the Shelf video?
It was because
it was
I
only
was
like
preparing.
a few days ago. You found
it was
them.
like a week or
a
two
week
ago.
Okay, yeah, it wasn't that long ago.
So because we were going to meet with our pastor, and I was thinking, okay, what are the things that I want to bring up? And so I was kind of Googling like Girldefined videos. So I was listening to like Girldefined videos, and then some of the reaction stuff, and I stumbled upon Zelf on the Shelf. It was like
so funny.
The top. It was the top something, and it was the hooks because it was like.
Was it one with you?
Yeah,
it was seeing your face.
It was like the Barbie review and the our conversation stuff, and
you were like, "That's me."
Like that's
me.
And then I started listening to it, and I kind of got hooked on Zelf on the Shelf
because you were like, "These people worship the ground I walk on."
No.
Yes, they do.
It doesn't. I like them.
I do too. I get it.
I think they're super nice, and I feel a lot of affirmation from them, and that's very sweet. But and I like these people. Okay.
So he was like, "Oh, you know, like they seem cool. You would probably like them, whatever." So this is just a side tangent. So then I was like, "Okay, I don't watch like any." That's like Paul and Morgan's reaction was the only thing I was planning on watching. I don't Google, I don't YouTube, I don't look at anything, but that specific one, I like went straight to the channel and I was like, okay, I'll watch it. And I definitely appreciate their like kind, gracious way they went about like discussing it and stuff. They call themselves like ex-Mormons, or they are ex-Mormons, or anyway. So I think they're a good representation of like unpacking a video in a kind, gracious way. At least that one. At least that video of theirs.
Okay. Because you went to watch some of the other ones. Okay. In that vein, I don't think we talked about it in here, but hater levels.
Oh, yeah.
Critic. Okay. Just dream with me for a little bit. We can often talk past each other because when we talk about how to deal with like in our dinner table conversation in the 24 hours of the video, we talked about the haters or critics and people, and when one person's thinking about haters, they're thinking about the people trying to actively remove you from social media and get you banned and coming after you and giving you death threats and all kinds of terrible things. And then somebody else might be thinking, somebody who has a different point of view, who is pointing out that they think your view is harmful and stuff like that. So critic levels, maybe hater is the premium package, where it's like the platinum, we have a wonderful platinum package to offer you. And the platinum package is full on hater of that nature. And then level 1 is the bronze package, which is like or silver, which is I don't know, just like somebody who disagrees with views, thinks your views are harmful, something like that.
That would be Zelf on the Shelf. They would be level 1.
They would be level 1?
They definitely disagree. And
we actually have a difference of opinion. Well, that's they think that your views are hateful. Right.
Yeah, so they would be level 1, which would be more of like a critic, not a hater. I wouldn't put them in the hater camp at all.
Right. You're not a hater.
Yeah.
I think it's pronounced friend, but
it does.
Well, she's like, yeah, you're not an unbiased.
Yeah, but like, they would be in that level 1 of like being critic and thinking some views are like, oh, these are hateful, damaging to the world, while also plummeting the depths. They plummet the depths of the Reddits and sometimes repeat things that are completely false and untrue. And so it's like
Reddit adjacent.
Yeah, which is just, that part is unfortunate to me. It's like, oh, like a channel like that, I do think they have so much going for them. And it's a little unfortunate to me when it's like, okay, why are you repeating some of these major talking points that are so completely false without like for sure knowing? So it's like, I really appreciate when channels on that level who are critics, it's easier to listen and to really accept like that feedback when they don't like repeat the random talking points, which not in the most recent video, but in some previous.
I do have to agree to that to a certain extent, because Reddit can be filled of just shit, to be quite honest. Even Brittany Dawn, Exfundie, Snark page, sometimes it's good videos or pictures or things like that, but I would say 70% of it is just shit talking, like, oh, Brittany said this way and her lips are fake and her lashes are blah, blah, and then Bethany, I can't believe that, if he's gonna deconstruct, she needs to blah, blah. Like, dude, come on. I don't like it. I hate it when people don't like somebody just because of how do I say it? Like, they do one thing wrong. I'm not saying like Brittany and Bethany have done like one thing wrong. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying, like, in general, in my experience in the Reddit world, if somebody does one thing wrong, then everything else that they do is just terrible. Like, I can glance at Reddit just to see if there's a little bit of information that I've missed, but man, reading through everything, oh my God, it drives me freaking bananas. So I kind of see where she's coming from when it comes to Reddit. Like, people are like honing in on things that are factually incorrect, so I can see why she would not want to be on Reddit or see whatever. But if you are a creator like her, there are a lot of other creators such as myself who do critique and talk about her views, her points that they make on Girldefined. So I also wouldn't want to watch those videos, because though it might be constructive criticism to a certain extent, I still wouldn't want to put myself out there watching people criticize. Like, I wouldn't want to watch that either. Are you crazy?
Let's watch the most recent video today together.
Yeah, I mean, people always ask me, do you have any friends who are not just like you?
I'm sorry. What did he say?
People are always like, do you have any friends who aren't just like you? And here's the reality, though. Like, we are super open to like having friends who think differently. For heck, I married you, and you're
heck. You heard it here, folks.
It's like, I married you and I still love you, and we have a blast together.
She's not an idiot. Like, Bethany knew from the beginning that I was kind of fuck.
Isn't that a nice compliment that your husband can say about you? She's not an idiot, folks. She's not an idiot.
Cookie cutter.
No, you weren't. That's what attracted me to you for sure.
I was just hey, babe, I can welcome you to the dark side. Come be with me, babe.
I didn't think you were going down a deconstruction route. But I really admired your integrity, which was one of the things that I've talked over and over again is what I've loved most about you. Yeah. And it's your integrity that is taking you down this path of deconstruction. So it's like
irony.
Yeah, but I choose you today, babe.
I did get some positive comments on the 24 hours with video for me personally, and Bethany got a lot of positive comments and just our relationship, and you have just a range. But I think Bethany is just a shining the shining star. One of the things that came up in the comments was there's a comment that had to do with my behavior and just making the observation that I seem to be taking little subtle digs at Bethany and kind of at her expense, and sort of like siding with the outsiders, and this reminding this person of this narcissistic behavior that she saw in her father or something like that.
It was like a whole big comment.
Just a big comment. It was a couple comments, I guess. And just hearing that, just like, wow, I've never seen someone who exhibited the traits of my father quite like Dave, that these narcissistic kind of traits. He didn't say I was a narcissist, but, and I read that and thought about it, and I was like, well, I definitely have been like that in the sense of taking little digs or making fun of Bethany in subtle ways, at her expense, snarking and stuff. And I felt like when I looked inside myself, I see traits like that. These narcissistic traits of like, needing someone to be less than in order for me to feel better about myself. And those are just traits that I really don't like, and I really don't want those there. And over, it was this a week ago, we were with our friends, and I made some comment. I was just making some comments. I was just being flippant. I was being flippant about deconstruction. I was just, being flippant with Bethany and it just, sort of little things at her expense, little put downs and things at her expense. And man, that's just the worst. That's just the worst behavior. And anyway, and so this comment calls me out, and I see a lot of those traits at times. It's been something that I've been working on. However, I could still see some more recent. And so I'm taking that very seriously, and I've used that comment, I think for good, as almost like rocket fuel to really kind of motivate me. When I read it, it doesn't feel very good, but it really helps me to confront myself and say, okay, this, to the degree that I exhibit this behavior, this has got to stop. This has got to stop. Stop. This has got to stop, and this will stop. And I wrote a bunch of commitments for myself of how I speak about Bethany, and I think there's a way to have opinions and at the same time to not come with any type of energy that's snarking on her from me. And actually it even extends to other things. Like as I started to confront myself on the narcissistic traits, and I mean, people disagree. Well, it's not narcissism, but it's like, yeah, but I'm using it fairly loosely, and you just go with it. As I confront myself on this, I notice there are other benefits as well. Like I don't have to put other people down as much. It's not just Bethany. It's like other guys, for example. And I just remember this quote. I heard this great quote. A strong man doesn't need a weak man in order to feel strong. It's like a strong person doesn't need a weak person in order to feel strong. That is just so good, because so often what I have done in my life out of insecurity is put other people down, and often through joking and snarking and things where it's like, well, I wasn't being mean, but it's like, yeah, but there's like an edge to it. And I've done that so often, not out of a place of friendship. I think there's a way to take digs at people where you're really like rooting for them and you really want them to do well, and you're just being friends and you're just like ribbing each other and stuff. And I think even in marriage you could, like there's a place for teasing and stuff like that. But I know the difference. And what I'm talking about is something that I don't want to do with Bethany, and I really don't want to do with anybody else. I don't want to speak about other people in that kind of put down sort of way that wants to put myself above them. And so I'm making some big changes, and it feels good to confront myself. But that was probably my favorite. As probably for me, it's like the worst comment to read and to see, but the one that I can probably use the most.
I never saw that comment, the narcissist one, and like you were like, it's there, and I went to look. I just like am blind to it. I cannot see that comment. You would tell me about different comments. I couldn't see it, but
one thing that I've noticed about Dave, and obviously he does talk about, is that he does read the comments, which I think is crazy, but he also hasn't been as forefront of Girldefined, obviously, as Bethany and Kristen. But now I think he's coming to the front because I'm sure they're going to do more videos on Dave and Bethany, their YouTube channel they have together. But he has come to the forefront because of this deconstruction and 24 Hours with Paul and Morgan. So I really hope that he doesn't keep reading the comments, because I feel like a lot of them would be more criticism than constructive criticism. But I do the same thing with Bethany does, just not read this stuff, because she is very self-aware that her comments are going to be more negative than they're all positive. I'd imagine, but I could be wrong. Obviously, I've been sitting here for just a little too long because Freya and Jackson are both like, when are we going to be done, Mom? When are you going to be done?
I appreciate the way that you are, choosing to not do that with me specifically.
I'd like nice. To not be not that do way. That. Why you make every time I try to do something fun, you make it not that way.
Okay, which is something.
There's so much. Wait, what does it say? I hate so much about the things you choose to be.
I will give a shout out to the Zelf on the Shelf. They have a lot of quotable lines that were funny that we've been quoting.
Oh, I feel this is their best. For the videos I've seen, they are at their their funniest.
Yeah, it's funny.
They were like, I'm starting to think of like t-shirts and stuff.
Like, whoa, dangerous thoughts there, my guy.
Not even the nature of the Godhead, babe.
I read the Torah, bro.
And I'm just like, yes, hold me, Janet.
There are so many people who are like, please.
I've never watched Zelf on the Shelf. I've never watched their channel. Let me know if you've watched it in the comments below. I'll probably watch some of their videos, but I've never heard of them / watched them before.
Address Paul attacking Dave afterwards. Paul loves to act like the best Christian and as if he knows all, but there is no such thing as the best Christian, and Dave's journey seems to be going well. All this stuff. So hopefully this video clears a lot of that up, because you are owning.
Yeah, it's going to disappoint some people. I mean, I think Paul is just expressing his view.
What's pretty crazy is ever since, I don't know if this is a coincidence or Heidi, Bethany's mom, has been posting about, I'm pretty sure she's been posting about religious stuff. Well, no, that was stupid. About relationship stuff on her Instagram for a while. I think she has been, but I think it is highlighted now since this video came up, because she keeps posting about why to marry a godly man, what is a godly man, how her and her husband have been together for so long, that types of thing. So it's very, very strange. I hope it is a coincidence and she's not being passively aggressive towards her own daughter. That'd be weird. However, the things that have come about Bethany's mom that I've learned about from the deep dive that Chelsea Suarez did, I'll link her deep dive video on Girldefined, and she talks a lot about their mom. And after all of that came out, I was like, oh my God, this is odd behavior. Instead of like talking to your daughter about it or whatever, just put it on social media. But it seems very passive aggressive to me. However, devil's advocate, she has been posting, her mom has been posting about relationship stuff on her social media for a bit. So I'm not sure if it's passive aggressive, coincidence, or she's just continuing what she has been doing.
You know, you can have an opinion. I think I made it pretty clear I'm not a really good representative of Christianity at this point. So I'm not, nor am I trying to be.
And I don't know what, I haven't seen anything that Paul said that's like putting you down at all. No. So I don't know what that is. Another person asked, do you feel that Paul and Morgan approached the interview in as non-judgmental a way as you did?
what does that even mean? I mean, we all make judgments. We all have opinions. I mean, I did not, I told Bethany, it's not like Morgan, because people saying Morgan's judgmental or something. It's not like she left and I was like, judgmental? I'm glad she's gone. Oh my gosh. And
I didn't feel like they were judgmental at all, but also they disagree with the way we do things. Like Morgan made it super clear. Like, I can't just have that sort of disagreement.
Why is that a problem?
Like,
so she doesn't want to have that type of marriage.
She doesn't want Paul deconstructing. Like, well I don't really want him deconstructing, this isn't like my top, like, oh, let me look at all the dreams of what I want for Dave deconstruction. Like, yes, it's like, no, of course, that's for me, not what I would want either. But like, I think that, like I said, like, I truly believe for me that God has us together. And I think we're super uniquely gifted to love each other well in this way.
Plus, I'm not sure. Yeah, I'm plenty judgmental. For better or worse, I have a long way to go.
People wanted to know more, like, would love to know more about how y'all differ in your views. The video kept talking about how much you differ on things, but that leaves a lot of room for interpretation.
We differ.
I mean, our view of God, our view of faith, our view of the Bible, our view of that, which is like so much. So,
it's a lot.
Yeah. Behind the scenes stuff that didn't make the cut. Paul and Dave sat down and drank whiskey together.
Yeah.
That wasn't really in there.
That wasn't in there.
Was filming with Paul and Morgan a positive experience? Did it cause any arguments after?
That's crazy to me. That's nuts to have Dave, now that he's deconstructing, not as crazy, but to have Paul, in my opinion, legalist, fundamentalist Christian who does everything by the book, by the Bible of what a Christian should do, and he is talking about that. Like, the man who thinks that the man who said they were not going to teach their kids about Santa because it's completely lying to their children, sat down and drank whiskey. That's just crazy.
Afterwards, I think it was super positive.
Yeah, it was very positive, and yes, it caused arguments.
Well, arguments with us, not with Paul and Morgan.
No.
I wish Paul and Morgan lived closer. Like, we would totally hang out if they lived.
Yeah, I feel like he would be the type of person that would give pushback.
And I mean, how is it hosting Paul and Morgan? How are they different and the same in real life as they are online?
Oh, we were talking about this.
Oh, yeah. So it seems like so many people on the internet have a problem with Paul specifically. Yeah. And we've already said, like, they came, they stayed in our house. Like, they're awesome. And, like, he
cracks me up. He's hilarious. I think he's hilarious.
Yeah. And
he's so funny.
Like, you were inspired by the way he treats Morgan. Like, he's just, like, a great husband, like, super genuine. But I relate to him in the way that when I film for Girldefined, it's kind of like you have this mode for better or for worse. And it's like you just kind of get into this, like, camera mode. And I think, Paul, you have that too. You get camera mode.
It's giving camera mode.
And it's fun. And it's kind of like you get in this, like, you're on camera. And so you're kind of over dramatic about stuff. But people take it so, like, weird and just like, can you believe? It's like, it's just you're kind of being, like, over the top for the camera. But in real life, it's like, it's like, if you can meet them and know them, it's like he is the most genuine, like, super caring, like they are people who are going to look out for you, who genuinely want the best for you.
Oh, yeah.
Like, he's a super great friend, an amazing husband to Morgan. Like, they just are, he's like a really, really great, genuine guy. So I think people just look at him through this lens of, like, oh, when they see him on camera, because he kind of does the whole, like, showman thing.
He's such a showman.
Look at him, he's just, like, the worst. And it's like, no, like, we know him. And I would say, like, if you could look at him through the lens of being, like, a super great, genuine guy, you might be able to see it more in, like, the showy kind of act.
It's a behind the scenes thing that did happen that wasn't on camera or anything.
Yeah.
But it was a conversation between me and Paul, and it was just him being very kind and encouraging me. And just in a very kind of brotherly sort of way.
It was super sweet.
In a direction that he thought would be helpful for me. And I just really appreciated that. I appreciated his heart and his care,
For sure.
Man, Paul and Morgan did a reaction to this video, and you would have thought that somebody close to them had died because of how down they were at Dave saying he was no longer a representation of Christianity, that he was deconstructing. You would have freaking thought that somebody had died, their dog had died, like something died, because they were so utterly distraught that he was like finally coming out and saying it. We have a few minutes left. We're almost there.
Yeah.
So here's the comment that I think encapsulates like what the problem is, what people are having a problem with, like what's going on now, like with Paul and Morgan, and then specifically you. And here's the deal: it's like people are so easily offended, and they want to take up people's offenses, and they're like, you know, so this is the comment. If you'd known that Paul and Morgan would have gone on to call Dave not a real Christian, and Paul would have gone on to say that people go off the rails after getting therapy and make a lot of insinuations about Dave and his character, would you still have agreed to do the video? Like 1000%.
Yeah.
And like, we don't care. Like,
well, I mean, what happened? Like, I'm basically agreeing with Paul in the sense that I'm agreeing with him that I'm not a real Christian. Not like
well, and like,
that.
Who cares if you choose to go to therapy and somebody else is like, oh, you go off the rails when you go to, like, who cares? You know, like, anyway.
Any more comments or questions?
I mean, we probably should wrap it up because it's late and we have to.
Early, I'm yawning.
Yeah, I know.
We have to go.
All in, I mean, huge shout out to Paul and Morgan. Go support them on their Patreon. Go follow them on YouTube.com, whatever. Paul and Morgan. They got a hell.
Okay, we're just gonna stop it right there. The rest of just plugging them, I think. So, you let me know what your thoughts are about his deconstruction. I think it's crazy. Not like crazy in a bad way, but like crazy that he is finally deconstructing, and it is on, you know, for the world to freaking see and for the world to criticize. World meaning the Christian people around them, because that's the hardest thing. Of like coming out and saying, I'm deconstructing. I don't necessarily believe the same things that I once believed in, but thank you for sticking around during this very long video. I do appreciate y'all so very much. Always remember that you're a fierce and powerful motherfucking woman, and I think I need to go take my dogs outside now. So have a wonderful day. I appreciate you once again, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye. You better stop it right now. Say hi, everybody. My name's Freya. Oh my god, your breast stinks. Okay, y'all just want to go lay back on the couch? I thought you'd want to be in here with me. You can't be on my... You are the most ridiculous dog in all the land. Say hi, everybody. Remember me? I'm Freya.